I've never understood the idea of finding a career and having to stick to it your whole life. This is perhaps one of those things in life that causes so much frustration to many of us. The pressures we feel in having to stick through what we chose in high school and college are incredible. Before we get into it today, welcome back to another episode of The Vivi Show. This space was created to reflect on the messy but beautiful reality of womanhood in today's world. It's a space where we get to untangle the intricacies of personal growth to the dynamic of work and family, the ways we have to navigate expectations, our own, others, and of societies. So don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I used to think that pivoting was a negative thing to do. But after many career pivots, I now see the value and the compound effect it has had on my life. I'll get into all the different things I have done later in this episode. And for sure, there are people that absolutely love what they do and they stick to it for most of their lives. But when I talk to friends, more often than not, they tell me how they're not really happy with what they're doing or where they're at, and change is desperately needed. And change can be so damn scary because change equals uncertainty. It means taking a risk and feeling uncomfortable, and most often than not, going through a time of not feeling secure, whether that's financial, social, or you name it. Technically, my first job was at age 5. I grew up with my family's restaurants, Pio Pio. So from a very young age, I was working at restaurants. I know everything about restaurants, in particular Pio Pios, and this comes super natural to me because I've been doing it for most of my life. Except, this is not really my passion. I just love to be a part of it in some capacity because I love creating and starting things, and I love helping my family. I've worked in every capacity at the restaurant, from cashier back in the day when you had to do it manually, to day-to-day operations and marketing. I did most jobs except serving tables. Somehow my dad never really allowed me to do that. Besides, it's not really my strength here. Carrying plates, it's not my thing. Then in college, I graduated with a marketing and public relations degree. While in college, I interned at various companies, from a full PR firm and agency to a tech startup. Then I got my lucky break. I applied through my school for a marketing and coordinator role at Audi Latin America. I came into the office, interviewed Maria Maestro, a young 20-year-old with literally no experience in this area, and somehow this woman saw something in me, and I was hired. When I tell you that this role shaped my career, I'm not exaggerating. This woman taught me so much during my 2 years at Audi, and I am forever, ever thankful. I got to work in really cool projects like a pan-regional launch for Audi Q7. To this day, it's still perhaps one of the coolest opportunities. And I still try to keep in contact because of how much this person means to me and what she has done for me to grow professionally and as a person. So, about after 2 years at the Audi office, they decided to close down and relocate to Mexico. I then started the hunt for my next job. Sadly, after months of search, nothing came up. And my frustration was at an all-time high. Because I was thinking, I had Audi in my resume. Why couldn't people see that? I didn't even get contacted to do interviews. I just, was waiting for someone to see the value that I thought I had. And after months of desperation, I took a sales job for a tech company. Not surprisingly, I was pretty good at it, except I hated the job. All I was doing was calling C-level executives to sell them on a summit. I felt miserable. I knew that I could do something more with my skills, something better. Though years later, like now, this job has its bearings and taught me things that I use today. Like how to not take no for an answer, how to persevere, to keep trying, and that things don't always have to feel good for there to be a good outcome. Sometimes you have to go through the muck and go through challenging moments to be able to go to the next step. At the same time, I took my first yoga class at Skanda Yoga, and I was hooked. The idea of focusing on yourself to grow physically, emotionally, and spiritually was what really captivated me, and I didn't even know it back then. And in my Vanes style, instead of taking more classes, I decided to register for the yoga teacher training. Now, halfway through the yoga teacher training, on a regular day, while I was working at the tech job, I started looking around and I felt my heart drop. I saw everyone doing the same thing every day, and I couldn't stay there longer. I had enough. Seeing everyone just an autopilot, not reaching, wanting for more, freaked me out. The complacency I saw in them was really a mirror for how I felt about myself. So I got up and I walked over to my boss and quit. No backup plan, no nothing. I just trusted that feeling. While I figured out what to do, I took some jobs at the front desk of a yoga studio and started teaching yoga classes. This was a really hard step because I could see how everyone around me, people that mattered to me, like my dad and friends, would look at me as if I was regressing, taking steps back rather than moving forward. I kept on applying to jobs, but no luck. So this is when I took matters into my own hands. I realized that I had been working freelance jobs in marketing for some time, so I decided that it was time for me to start my own marketing agency. And this was the start of my 2 businesses that brought so much fulfillment into my life and added value. I felt that I was creating something for myself and only myself, and I was giving back to the community in a small way, but it mattered. I kept on teaching yoga and started venturing into the holistic lifestyle. Eventually, I went full throttle on coaching and meditation classes. I hosted wellness events and even a beautiful yoga retreat in Colombia. And at the same time, I started my marketing agency and worked with really, really, really cool clients. When I reflect on this time, what I think happened is what I wasn't thinking so much. I trusted myself enough to just take action. I got my first client because I was talking to someone about my marketing agency and they were like, oh, well, we need someone. Come by tomorrow with a proposal. I stayed up all night working on that proposal and showed up. In that same meeting, I closed a client. I didn't even have an agreement or processes, but I just went with the flow and trusted myself. Right in the middle of COVID, I felt I needed to change, but I was really afraid to do so. I was so grateful for my marketing company, which was actually really doing good because everyone was going online. But I felt that it was time to move on. I thought I would have more years before I would sell my marketing agency, but as we've already learned, plans change. So I decided to fully pivot into the Vanna's Vibes holistic endeavor. Online meditation classes, yoga, coaching, the whole shebang. I was also working for another company, like wellness company, as a facilitator. Now, this is where things get really, really interesting. I had dabbled in crypto for a bit, but I decided to go all in. Well, if I'm being honest, I actually lost 11K when Bitcoin was at an all-time high because I trusted someone else rather than trusting myself and doing things for myself. A story for another time. Nonetheless, crypto had captivated me, specifically Bitcoin. After months of interacting, buying NFTs, being fully immersed, and trying to figure out how I could merge both worlds, my wellness company with crypto. I decided slowly to stop my wellness and kind of go all in on the other side, the dark side, crypto. So I began my job hunt here, and I see an opening for partnerships position for an NFT project called Crash Punks, built on Stacks. So I applied and I got it. Partnerships here really means doing a little bit of everything, so it's nothing fancy. It means marketing, contacting people to get them excited about the NFT, talking to different figures within the space so that they can promote and be a part of like the partnerships program. And the artist, Grace, was focused on mindfulness. And I felt like it just merged all of my experiences together. And this was the start of my crypto affair. This is when I started my podcast, Unraveling Crypto, a podcast designed to explore what crypto was and the people building inside of this space. I was obsessed. I was completely obsessed. And so I had to do something to share with my community and to get my friends into it. And after working at a few different places like the Stacks Grants program, and Stacks, of course, then NFTs, I finally landed the dreamiest job at EduNode. EduNode is my new home, and I took a huge challenge here because it was a new role for me as business development and partnerships, but also because there was a high bar set by the company. As I look back into my career, I feel proud of all the fields I've entered into. I didn't surface level work on them. I went in and hard. What one person may do in 5 to 10 years, I went in and did it in 2 to 3 years. Throughout this time, I have felt insecure, and the imposter syndrome was the main character here. One thing is working for someone who you're learning from, but the other is when you are leading yourself, a team, and servicing a client. The thoughts I had back then was like, what if I can't provide the results they want? What does that mean about me and what I bring to the table and my skills? What if they notice that I'm new at this and they'll figure out that I'm a fraud? And at the same time, for my coaching and wellness venture, I thought to myself, who am I to be leading these people in this way. I don't have a degree in psychology, so I might even qualify for this. Who was I to enter into a career without having that official degree of going to a traditional school and finishing it up? And at certain points, I also saw so many people starting their marketing business and their yoga and coaching businesses. But I felt that I was just one of the many, and I started to feel small and insignificant. I started to feel bottled in and not free what I really wanted to experience. And the imposter syndrome was there every single step of the way. So when you pivot so much, you're essentially starting again. And that feeling can be intense because you constantly feel behind everyone else. Even to this day, I've been in the crypto space for 4 years now, and I still feel behind. This is when I had to work on shifting my mindset and recognizing that each job, role, career served as a purpose and that those skills are transferable. This is what makes me unique, what makes each of us unique. Whew, baby's moving. Okay, we attach so much to who we are with what we do in life to make money. Our identity is through the lens of what we do in our careers and how we are seen through that. Don't let your identity's attachment to your career limit you from exploring other areas and getting to know yourself better. Only in retrospect can we really see the value of these changes and of these pivots. And it can produce so much fear, but we've got to trust that feeling of pivoting and reinventing ourselves.